Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Jordan, Local Food Program Manager over here at Sustainable Solano. Welcome to Bounty of the County. If you've been with us before, you know that this series is a celebration of farms and food and independent restaurants and wineries based here in Solano County, California. We are on the home stretch. This is our 5th out of 6 presentations. And we are, of course, featuring a local farmer, a chef and restaurant, and local winemaker. So just to give you guys a little background, if you're joining us for the first time, Bounty of the County was originally supposed to be a large in-person event at the Solano County Fairgrounds, showcasing a lot of our local food and wine. Obviously, we cannot do that, but we are hoping to do that in-person event someday. So in the interim, we're doing this kind of semi-virtual series of presentations to raise awareness of Solano-based farmers and also the specialty crops that they grow, as well as the independent restaurants who are using those ingredients, and of course our local wineries. So the farms participating in Bounty of the County are specialty crop farms, which means that they grow fruits, vegetables, tree nuts, and culinary herbs mostly. Of course, some have other goodies, but those are the things that comprise the bulk of their production. And this event also feeds into Sustainable Solano's larger mission, which is to build a more robust local food system in Solano County, which builds the local economy and is great for the environment. So we're also using Bounty of the County as a platform to help raise funds for farmers who are in the path of a lot of crazy wildfires that broke out in the middle of August. Most of them created a lot of loss and damage northwest of Vacaville, and we've seen just amazing efforts from the community and also fellow farmers stepping up to help their neighbors. Even before some of the farmers knew if their land was destroyed or not, they were telling me in some emails and text messages that they wanted to reach out and help if their land and crops survive. So we were just amazed by that and really touched. And so I just wanted to mention that you know, when you are supporting these local farmers, they are also supporting their own community, and it helps, you know, everyone overall. So if you do want to make a donation, we are putting together a fire relief fund. So 100% of all donations that Sustainable Solano receives in the month of September will get channeled to farmers, growers, and ranchers who were affected by the fires. So Allison, who's on the back end of this, will send some links in the chat for you to see, and you can check that out for more information. I also want to quickly mention that while Bounty of the County started on September 1st and is going through October 10, many restaurants and wineries are also running their specials through October 10. There are some special dishes being created, and there are also some special wine deals out there. So check out sustainablesolano.org for all of this information and stock up on your wine and local farm goods. All of this helps to build our local food system. So before I introduce our featured trio, I do have a couple of Zoom things to mention. Audience members, you are in on mute, and you will stay on mute until we get to the question and answer session, but don't worry, we will unmute you. And if you do have questions, there are 2 ways that you can present those. One is to use the raised hand button on the bottom of your screen. And once we see that your hand is raised, we will unmute you, and then you can ask your question directly to our participants and have a conversation, which is always really fun. The other thing you can do is just type your question into the chat, and then I will read it back at the end. So also, one last thing is that as you're viewing, we recommend changing your screen to speaker view. That will enable you to see best this presentation, and we will be spotlighting Chef Wyatt along the way. So just really quick, I'm going to introduce our featured guests. Our farmer this week is Lorraine Walker of Eatwell Farm in Dixon, and our restaurant chef is Wyatt Brege, who recently joined Lindsey Hickman's flagship local food hub and now restaurant, the Barn and Pantry in Dixon. And then our featured winery of the week is Sky Ranch Estate, and I'm happy to welcome Mandy, Heldt, Donovan, who's here from Sky Ranch. So these guys are all having like a party. Allison and I got the short end of the stick on this deal. So we look forward to seeing what you guys create over there. So I'm going to start with the farm. Lorraine, you've got about 100, I don't know, maybe even more acres at Eatwell Farm, and it's all organic farmland outside of Dixon. You grow like a staggering variety of fruits and veggies and herbs, you know, and you make products. I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about just how you plan that out and manage all of that.
Well, it's a little tricky, and honestly, it's getting trickier every year because at this point, our hot season is longer, and the rainy season is starting later, and sometimes it's running later. So what we've done in the past for well over 25 years is maybe not going to be working for us anymore. I'm not really sure, and I think it's a problem that all farmers are facing. So just a quick little background on me. I'm actually not a farmer. I married a farmer, and my husband passed away with cancer a few years back, so I am continuing on with our vision of Eatwell. For me, I am a lover of food and have been interested in food since I was a little girl, and sneaking into the kitchen to cook when I was 5 years old. And as an adult, I've spent my entire adult life working in the natural foods and organic industry. So marrying a farmer was kind of a perfect pairing for both of us. So I learned a lot from Nigel, and fortunately we have an excellent crew who really stays on top of the day-to-day work, what needs to happen every day, where the tractors need to go and what they need to do. So at this point, we kind of, couple of years back when Nigel passed, my son and I worked very hard for well over a year putting together crop planning, and we pretty much are following the same schedule, altering it just slightly. This year has really thrown me for a loop because I'm looking at the fact that the fire season is now so intense that having this much smoke block the sun is a huge problem. I mean, our tomatoes this year have been, I wouldn't say they were a complete and utter failure, but for the standard of Eatwell, it's been a pretty much disastrous tomato season. And part of it is because we had one of the hottest Augusts on record, followed by several weeks of no sunshine. So first you have too much sun, too much heat, puts the plants into kind of a shock, and then not enough sunshine for them to pick up and start over again. So
we've heard that from some other farmers too. Just the smoke and the lack of sunshine has really, it's just an odd, you know, combination. But like you said earlier, it's kind of a new reality that people may have to be dealing with. So
yes,
yeah.
I don't know that anybody knows what to do about it. I've talked to quite a few farmers because, like I said, I'm not a farmer. That's not my training and my background. So as you mentioned earlier when talking about the fires, the farming community is really amazing, and so many farmers are there to help you out, and they help each other out. And I'm very lucky that I have some really great, talented and knowledgeable farmers that I can turn to ask questions. And like I said, at this point, nobody really knows what to do.
Right.
But it is a big juggle. We grow well over 150 crops in the year. We are primarily a CSA farm. With the onset of COVID, we stopped virtually all wholesale because our CSA maxed out. So that's our current CSA box. That's what got packed up this week. So we've got onions, chard, raisins actually come from Cape orchards, garlic chives, fingerling potatoes, and eggplant, carnival squash, sweet potatoes that will be in tonight's dinner, tomatillos, and basil. And that's a sampling of what we've got going on the farm. But what's growing is incredible right now. We've got cabbages and kale and more chards and lettuces and turnips and radishes and beets. You know, everything's heading into the later fall and the winter crops.
Right.
Down the road. And we have well over 2,000 chickens that we manage, which is for eggs. So just to add a little more complexity to where and when and how to put things. So
Exactly. Yeah, you have a really, I mean, you're one of the strongest CSA farms in Solano County, maybe one of the only CSA farms in Solano County. And so in addition to finding your products through the CSA, which, you know, I realize is on hold, where else could people get your products?
Up here, we do sometimes have some produce at the barn and pantry, and really that's about it. However, even though on our website, which is eatwell.com, it says that the CSA is closed, we are accepting new members for Vacaville, Dixon, Davis, and Sacramento. One of the challenges we're facing right now, because the CSA is quite full, our vans going down to San Francisco and the East Bay are pretty full. However, locally, we can keep boxes here and send a truck out when the vans get back. So if you're in Vacaville, Dixon, Davis, and Sacramento, and you're interested in the CSA, just send us an email and let us know that you're in one of those towns, and we'll probably be able to work you in immediately.
Okay, great. Thanks for telling us that. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about some of your other products that you make, like the salts and the softers, and you have more than just produce.
Yeah, we do. We have quite the array of value-added products. And actually, we're using one of our salts tonight. That's the smoked chili. But in tonight's dinner, we are using, I think that's the only one I have over there, the rosemary. There we go. Those are all well used, you can tell, in my kitchen. So we do 6 salts, and they're all made from herbs or things that grow on the farm. So for instance, the smoked chili, that happened and our tomato salt, both of those happened the year that they had medfly in Dixon, and we weren't allowed to take any of our crops off the farm. So we decided to expand our salt line and added dried tomato salt and smoked chili salt to our herbs. Other than that, we have the lavender, rosemary, thyme, and a lemon. We grow about 5 acres of lavender, a little more than that. And from that, we get essential oils, hydrosols, we make salves, sugar scrubs, balms, and obviously the salt. And then hopefully I'll get started back up again pretty soon. I've been pretty busy with the farm maxing out with COVID. I also do a lacto-fermented soft drink, and we use herbal hydrosols from the farm for that as well. And all of those items you can just order online. I'm hoping to get the barn and pantry restocked. We've just been so swamped with the CSA expanding, and then we've also had a bit of employee turnover. So people moving on, some new people. So it's, you know, it takes a lot of time getting people up and running and trained. And so anyway, hopefully really soon, like in the next week or so, I'll get the barn and pantry restocked.
Awesome. All right. Well, speaking of the barn and pantry, I want to introduce Chef Wyatt Brege. Although Lorraine, you know, you and Wyatt are kind of like a well-oiled machine when it comes to, you know, farm-to-table dinners and just farm-to-table anything. So How did you guys meet? And then we'll let Wyatt, you know, loose in the kitchen.
Well, actually, Lindsey had me come with her to one of the events in town, and Wyatt was there when he was still working at Dawson's in town. Gotcha. And he was serving his mac and cheese. I kind of am a mac and cheese aficionado, so I had to go check it out, and I was pretty impressed. And anyway, so from there, Wyatt and I started talking, and he clearly had an interest in working directly with the farm, and I'm like, yeah, I love it. And so we started doing dinners here on the farm, which is currently on hold, but we are hoping next season to get those up and running again.
And the best part about that night that we met, Lorraine gave me one of her CSA boxes and said, take this and go play with it over at the restaurant. And I was so geeked when I went into the kitchen door with that box of produce, and it had Romanesco and all sorts of like fancy ingredients that I wasn't able to find without a chase. And the fact that we could get it delivered right to my kitchen door was awesome. So every week we were doing a farm to fork 3 to 4 course dinner, and I was using Lorraine's produce exclusively for that. And we did that for over a year.
Yep.
And it was great. And I also remember this one time when I asked Lorraine if she could bring beets so I could make a beet salad. And here walks Lorraine with a dirty, muddy old bag of beets in the middle of the rain. It says, here you go. I was just so happy to go back to the sink and clean them, and made a fantastic that night.
That's awesome. All right, Wyatt, what are you doing here in Lorraine's kitchen? What are you making? We've got a lineup of all kinds of awesome produce. It's going into a spectacular salmon dish, and I think we're working on getting the camera to focus on. Oh yeah, here we go.
Here we go. So tonight we're doing a wild-caught salmon dish with a green onion gremolata, and I'm going to show you how to make a very simple gremolata with Sky Ranch's amazing extra virgin olive oil, green onions, and garlic chives from the farm, some rosemary salt to add a little bit of herbal component to the sauce. We're going to cook up some sweet potatoes. I've got some French lentils, which are my favorite because they hold so much more texture. They don't get all soft like a red or a brown, dal type lentil would get. It gives it a good crunch to the dish. And then we'll go from there. So first I'll start off. I'm going to first get my sweet potatoes going. I've already peeled them. And my rule of thumb for cutting vegetables is if you're using a knife and fork, be able to pick it up with a knife and fork. So I made these about fork size. Okay, sweet potatoes don't take as long as normal potatoes, and you can also drop them into already boiling water, so you can do this ahead of time. And you can even do this the night before. Same with making the sauce or making the lentils. You can do all this the night before, and it will only take you 5 to 10 minutes to cook your salmon and your veggies together. So I'm just going to let the sweet potatoes go. We always season in layers, so I'll season the potatoes with the rosemary salt. That'll also help bring the boiling temperature up, which will make the sweet potatoes quicker. Okay. Now for the salmon, I'm going to show you a couple different techniques. So we have skin on. The scales have already been removed. This will make about 2 good-sized portions. This is just under a pound. I've removed the bones from the fillet. I'm going to cut it right in half. Now there's 2 ways to do this. So my preferred way is just to season this and then cook it in a nice hot pan. The other way you can do it is you can remove the skin now, and if you like your fish a little bit more well done, you can butterfly it and get a nice symmetric presentation. By opening it up like this, it will cook quicker in your pan. Okay. Just like that. And we'll put this presentation side down first, and likewise with this one, we'll put that side down first. I'm going to get a nice hot pan going. I'll season the salmon with the rosemary salt. Both sides. And I like a little fresh cracked pepper on that. Okay. Just gonna let that wait. While the pan's going, we can start making our sauce. So, nice big bowl. I have the green onion scapes, or the tops of red spring onion. I'm going to add those to the bowl. I have the garlic chives lightly diced up. And I'm going to use an immersion blender. You can use a food processor or a normal stand blender. And I have about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic minced. Okay. Season. Every gremolata has an acid, so I'm going to use some fresh lemons. Gremolata is traditionally done with parsley. But once you taste the sauce, you're going to be so happy because you can put it on crackers, you can put it on bread, you can put it on pizza. It's much like a pesto in that way, except there's no cheese and there's no nuts. And the nice thing about this dish too is it's naturally gluten-free. It's naturally dairy-free. So if you have a restrictive diet, it's great for you. And just the veg by itself, if you're a vegan, is excellent. It's a good source of protein and normal vitamins for you. So I got all the acid, and then the best component is the olive oil from Sky Ranch. I'm going to add about a cup. I might need a little bit more. And I'm going to go to work. You tilt the bowl to get a little bit more coverage. That looks pretty good to me. Now, before I do my dishes, with any sauce, there's always a rule, and that's the taste. Nice and lemony, a good bite from the olive oil. That's the most featured part. Not too garlicky. If you don't like too much garlic, you can skip the cloves and just go with the garlic chives. They're a lot more subtle. The seasoning's good, good amount of pepper. Nice bite from the onion tops. I think that's good to go. Okay, so our pan should be nice and hot now. It's important with salmon to have a really, really hot pan. A lot of people have a problem when cooking salmon because the salmon tends to stick to your pan. Now I can tell because I put olive oil in here that's already smoking. Olive oil has a low smoke point, which is why you want to be quick and put it in when the pan is hot and not bring the pan up to heat with the oil in it. So I got the salmon in.
That was my fault. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties.
No worries.
I'm going to cut my sweet potatoes right here. Almost tender enough. You don't want to cook them all the way because we're going to put all this into one pan and saute them together. So you want to make sure your sweet potatoes are a little bit al dente because they're going to cook a little bit more in a saute pan. Having said that, we'll get another saute pan going. I heat. My sweet potatoes are just about done, so I'm going to kill that heat. Those are off the heat. Just rolling the oil around in the pan. By doing this, you're getting oil underneath the skin that'll help prevent it from sticking. And you just have to let it sit for a bit. If you go too early, it's going to tear the skin off or it's going to stick to the pan. And if you do it right, you shouldn't even need a spatula. Just going to shake it a little bit, see if we're sticking. looks like we're good. The skin also does kind of help add some non-stick features to a stainless steel pan. I'm gonna flip them. Now, you don't even need to fillet the skin off if you don't want to. In this stage, you can take the skin right off the top of the salmon. It peels right off because it's already cooked. I personally like the flavor, so I'm gonna keep that on. I'm gonna lower the heat a little bit on this burner. At this point, you can set the pan aside and the fish will continue to cook. The heat isn't there from the clad bottom. Now I got my vegetable pan. All my vegetables are cut up and done. High heat for that one. More olive oil. Right. Now I'm going to blister some shishito peppers that I've already cut up. I've already took most of the seeds out because sometimes they're too spicy. Okay. At this stage, you're releasing a lot of essential oils from the pepper, and that's going to flavor all the other vegetables that are going to go in the pan. Kind of bounce around like popcorn. I'm going to add the onions. These are just the rings of red spring onion. The insides of these rings I actually just threw right in with the tops, with the green tops from those red spring onions. Now that the onions are in there, I'm going to season. Again, more rosemary salt from Eatwell Farm. Let those caramelize just a little bit.
Wyatt, while we're waiting for the peppers to cook, there was a quick question that came in. Actually, this might be a question for Lorraine about the immersion blender. Someone was really amazed at how great it worked. What is the brand of your immersion blender?
It's a Breville.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's been well used, so the label's almost
It has been well. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I took the lentils and some vegetable stock that we made at the restaurant, which is a basic mirepoix, which is celery, carrots, and onion. I didn't salt the stock because I want to be able to control that at the cook time. I'm going to add some lentils into this mix. 2-to-1 ratio of water to lentil. Since there's 4 of us, I think that should feed about 4 once I get the sweet potatoes in there. Sweet potatoes are nice and tender, but they will still hold their shape. You can also roast your sweet potatoes. It's the summertime, it's hot. The last thing I want to do is turn on an oven. Or you can grill them outside on your barbecue. Okay, and I'm just going to toss these all together. And just look at the colors. You have red, you have green, you have different shapes. At this point, you can add some raw butter that you can get from the bar and pantry. Add a nice creamy texture to it. And since everything is already hot, this is essentially done. Now, I'll taste. Check for salt. Now, me and Lorraine have more of a salt tooth than others. So I'm going to add just a little bit more. I'm going to add some more black pepper. And the olive oil is really showing through all this. Love it. So while that finishes, I'm going to start plating this up. Take about a couple tablespoons of your gremolata. Add it to your plate. You can do a nice fun swoosh if you'd like. Take your salmon, which if you want to check if it's done, see if it's starting to break. Otherwise it will feel like sushi and it will bounce back on you. Since I'm able to push through, this salmon is at least medium rare. Nice crispy top. Vegetables are done. I'll add those to the plate. And there's literally nothing wrong with adding just a little bit more olive oil to the top. There you have an amazing wild-caught salmon dinner with a green onion gremolata and local produce from Eatwell Farm.
Yay.
Yum. That looks so delicious. I have a couple questions for you, Wyatt. When you were doing the lentils, did you put any aromatics or seasoning in while they were cooking or before they started to cook?
Yes, so I brought the vegetable stock up to a boil, and then I added the lentils in, and then added about a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of the rosemary salt to the lentils.
Gotcha.
It also
Okay.
helps faster, just like the sweet potato too.
Yeah. And then I know you mentioned that this dish would be great for vegetarians without the salmon. Is that also an option at the Barn and Pantry? Or tell us about how this dish is being sold. It's on the menu now. And so will it be on the menu for a while?
We're in the process of creating our dinner menu, and we want to make sure that we do it phenomenally. So it will take a little bit of time, but within the next couple of weeks, we will be there. So this will be featured throughout the rest of the season.
Great. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much,
So if you
Wyatt.
wanted to get vegetarian, you could just ask your server, and we'll just double up the veggies.
Got it. Okay, great. I'm going to hop over to Sky Ranch Estate now. Mandy, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I think first you need to tell us what should we be drinking with that delicious salmon dish.
Yeah, I brought 2 wines today. The Estate Syrah 2016, and then a Cabernet Malbec blend. Both have really bright fruit characteristics that I think will really pair well with the freshness of the dish.
Yeah, great. Well, I wish we were here talking about like how busy you guys are because of harvest, but unfortunately, Sky Ranch was one of the farms in the path of the fires, and you were in Bounty of the County, then pulled out after the fires, but then jumped back in because you realized that your inventory, thankfully, was stored off-site, and so we're super happy about that. Hooray! And I know you sent us a lot of photos with some before and some after, and I don't know if you want to walk us through some of those, but for sure, please tell us how Sky Ranch is planning to rebuild.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and this is a good opportunity for us to say that we are still viable. Unfortunately, our new narrative is that the LNU complex fire just really devastated Sky Ranch. I'll give you the backstory while you guys look at the pictures. I try to pair some of the before and after so you could truly see the beauty and what we're really shooting to go back for. So Sky Ranch sits, it starts about 2,000 feet in elevation near the top of Mixed Canyon in Vacaville, and then continues to climb up. So it's really hot, really dry up there, and we were just right in the path of the fire as it came over past Berryessa. So Lee Perry bought the property 20 years ago and started to plant the olive grove. So we have about 40 acres of olive trees, primarily planted to Frantoio olive, which is an Italian variety. Lee Perry's has Italian heritage, so we wanted to kind of stick with his roots. It's got really good spicy characteristics, which make it great for dipping and salad dressings and everything. And then 10 acres of vineyards that we try to focus on kind of old world, again, to coincide with his heritage. So old world meaning Europe, but also heat-loving varieties, things like Malbec, Syrah. We just done some recent installations of Primitivo, which is Zinfandel, some Nero d'Avola, which is a Sicilian variety, as well as Touriga Nacional. And unfortunately, when those fires came over, it wiped out a good chunk of both the olive grove and the vineyards. Fortunate because there's one of our newer installations. Fortunately, because olive trees are pretty established, they will be able to come back. So we'll just take some good watering this winter, hopefully, and some good pruning, and they will make it back. And then as far as the vineyards, most of those will have to be replanted again. But we're 8 years strong as a brand. The good news is that all the people and the animals made it down safely. Our inventory is stored off-site. There's still good wine in barrel for the future. We lost our entire crop this year, but I was able to scramble and find some grapes actually to make some wine. So it's not from the estate this year, but it is smoke-free grapes, so we will continue.
So Mandy, you had mentioned a buy a vine kind of an initiative to help re-establish all of the vineyards. Is that set up and ready to roll? What can you tell us about that?
We are going to do that. Unfortunately, we're still sadly in phase 1 of cleanup. So we're not ready to start accepting donations yet for the replanting. We need to focus on getting things cleaned up, getting water back up to the ranch. We have a well that's still fine, but the pump to get the water out melted. So we've got to get that going. And then, yeah, we're going to start doing a plant a vine initiative that we're hoping that $20 donation will help us offset some of our costs for replanting some of those really cool varieties that I mentioned. And meanwhile, you get 20% off any of your purchases, and in 3 years, you will get a free bottle of wine. So we're hoping to start that. The best way to really support us right now, though, is just to order online directly to us and support the inventory that we still have. If you don't want to go online, Lindsey also has been a great supporter of both our wine and olive oil, as has Lorraine with our olive oil and her CSA boxes. So those are a couple of different avenues you can support us.
Great, thank you for those details. Okay, so again, we can order wine and olive oil off of Sky Ranch Estates website, which is posted in the chat. And if you're an Eatwell subscriber, you can add it on. I have a big gallon of the olive oil behind me here. It's really wonderful olive oil. I find it to be just really well balanced and versatile for a lot of different purposes. So it's one reason why I really love to use it and work with it. And of course, you know, Wyatt showed you how you can mix it in with just about anything, sauces that are not cooked, things that are cooked. So it's great.
We worked hard to get that olive oil. So it's certified extra virgin by the COCC. And if anybody knows anything about olive oil production in California, the California Olive Oil Council is pretty strict. Their requirements for extra virgin certification are actually tighter than Italy's. So we finally achieved that, and we're not going to let that go. So we will be regrowing and reproducing olive oil as soon as we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to see if you could talk a little bit about what kinds of vegetables and herbs and flavor profiles which are kind of coming up in the fall might coordinate well with the wines that you have to offer.
Yeah, great question. So what I like about both of these wines is everything's organically farmed and they're naturally fermented. And so I really don't put anything into the wines. I think by doing that, it really does help preserve that really natural, you know, people in the wine industry call it terroir, the source of where the fruit comes. And it really displays that warmth that is Sky Ranch. And when I say warmth, it's warm. This is the Malbec Cabernet blend. And these kind of flavors, you kind of, you get fresh blueberry and you get star anise and you get these really neat, fresh flavors that make it really food friendly. And then with the Syrah, you get things like cloves and praline and like dried figs and stuff. So you just get a lot of good fresh, you know, kind of, you feel like fresh from the garden flavors and everything in both of them. I tend to pick early to preserve that freshness. So while they have those warmth flavors, it's not going to taste hot, meaning high alcohol, really extracted on the palate. It's going to sit really light and so go really well with food too.
So Mandy, are you the one actually blending and mixing this wine?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh.
I oversee all the grape growing and winemaking, and as well as the olive grove farming and olive oil production. So yeah.
Okay, great. I didn't realize that. I wasn't sure what your position was over there. I've talked to you on a number of occasions and we've done projects together, but I wasn't sure that you handled all of that. So great.
Yeah, no, this is great. So I have about 18 years of winemaking in my past, and I joined Sky Ranch about 8 years ago, and it's fun. I grew up in Vacaville, so when somebody introduced me to Lee, this was a great opportunity for me to really try to produce something top-notch caliber in my own hometown.
That's great. Cool. All right, I think I saw some questions coming in, so let's hop over to the Q&A here. I saw that someone had raised their hand earlier, but now I don't see the hand, but there are questions in the chat. So I'm just gonna scroll through here just to make sure I don't miss anybody. No, okay, I don't see the hand. Okay, let's see here. We've got questions. The first one is, Wyatt, that butterflying technique was an awesome tip. And people are wondering, what is the best way to remove the salmon bones? It's those pin bones that are kind of pesky.
To be perfectly honest, it's needle nose pliers. You can try tweezers. If you do tweezers, get the ones that you can ask your favorite chef at a sushi restaurant what kind of fish tweezers that they use, and order those off your online ordering system of choice. But if you're just at home, needle nose pliers work great.
Yep, I second that. I have a pair of needle nose in my kitchen and I use them all the time for all kinds of fish. So another question about the lentils. Someone's wondering, did you cook the lentils before adding them to the pepper mixture? And I think you did.
Yes. So I just cooked them until they're about al dente. I want to keep that crunch to add some texture to the dish. So I cooked them for about 20 to 25 minutes on a low simmer after bringing them to the grill.
Cool.
Again, that was a 2-to-1 ratio. And you can use water. I like to use the vegetable stock because it adds a little bit more flavor.
Right. Okay, here's another one. Christina's asking, will you continue to have a Sky Ranch Estate booth? Oops, wait, I just lost the, hold on. There it is. Will you continue to have a Sky Ranch Estate booth at the, is that Vacaville Farmers Market / Sweet Peas? I think the market moves there post-summer season. So sorry for all you have lost. You do beautiful things.
Thank you. Yeah, so we will continue doing the farmers market every other week for the remainder of the season, and probably next year too. It's in the works. Well, that was pre-pandemic and pre-fire to eventually build a tasting room so we can invite people directly over to taste the wine. So that will still happen. Maybe it's just a little bit further out than we were hoping.
Okay, great. So just because summer has ended, don't think you can't get more product from Sky Ranch. That's great. Let's see here. What are the Sky Ranch labels? Can you show a close-up? Oh, okay. Whoever's got the mobile camera thing there.
So this first label is called Two Old Guys. It was a collaboration project between Lee and one of his neighbors up on Mixed Canyon, who has a neighboring vineyard. And they wanted to make a wine and throw all their grapes together. And Lee said, will you do it? And I said, of course. And I said, what do you want to call it? He goes, I don't know, Two Old Guys. So then we sat down and designed the label. And we said, well, what do two old guys do? And they play games and drink wine. So that's our Malbec Cabernet blend. We're pretty excited. It won Best Wine of Solano County in the North Coast Wine Competition last year in 2019. So that was a good honor. And then the second label is Il Coccosolo, which means crown of the mountain in Italian. Again, to pay homage to Lee's heritage. It's 100% estate grown Syrah, 100% Syrah. Yeah, naturally fermented and aged for 2 years. So.
All right. Thank you. Wyatt, I think there's a question coming in from your brother. Maybe. Question for Brother Chef Wyatt. Is there a difference in how you prepare saltwater salmon versus freshwater salmon from the Great Lakes, or would you follow the same process?
I would essentially follow the same process. You might want to add a little bit more salt to the lake salmon. They do have different textures. One's a little bit more fatty than the other, the ocean one. But honestly, you can cook them the same way. The same techniques will apply. You can always adjust your salt at the end too. Thanks, McKenna.
Okay. That's kind of fun. All right. Any other questions out there? Last call, people. I'm going to look through here. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. Allison, I don't see any hands raised. Can you verify that for me?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. Oh, Christina, another great episode. You're welcome, Christina. Thanks for joining us. Oh, well, is the rumor true that Il Cocuzola won a double gold? Mandy, that's a question for you.
Yeah, so I didn't bring that particular vintage with me, but the 2017 did just received double gold, best in class, and 96 points from the Sunset Magazine International Wine Competition. So another good, as I would say, these are harbingers of the quality yet to come from Sky Ranch.
Excellent. You know, one other question came in about the salmon. When cooking the salmon, do you rely on your experience for just timing, or do you use a thermometer, like a, you know, bimetallic stem thermometer or something like that?
Instant read thermometer is your best friend. And for salmon, you probably want to temperature it for medium rare around 130. Meats will always cook up as they're sitting. So medium rare is around 130, 135. And for salmon, that's the best temperature that you can cook it at. So an instant read thermometer would be your best friend on that. But for me, I just use my experience and also just by feel. So by pressing the sides of the fillet, I can tell if it's cooked or not.
Okay, great.
For an amateur, I try and get that down with a thermometer first. Same with burgers, same with steaks. Use a thermometer, get the feel, and then you won't go wrong with that technique.
Good advice, I would say. Excellent. All right, if you could just give us the quick rundown, address of the Barn and Pantry, maybe some hours, so that we all know when and where and how to get that fantastic dish. I don't know if Lindsey's there and wants to speak to that, or if you want to take that on, Wyatt.
Yeah, let me go.
I think I can probably take that. So we're open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Right now, our lunch service stops at 2 p.m. So we're open in the afternoon for market, groceries, and coffee and things like that. Some grab and go snacks. But we're hoping our liquor license should go through, I believe it's October 21st. So we should be looking at launching our dinner menu by then. That way we can coordinate that with good glasses of wine from Sky Ranch.
Great. And you guys are on A Street, right, Lindsey?
Yeah, so we moved 2 doors down. We were originally at 125 West A Street, and we're now inside of what used to be A Street Cafe and A Street Deli. So we're inside of there. We should have our sign up pretty soon. Right now we don't have a sign, so we're right behind Frosty's. You can tell by our furniture it's all the same as it used to be. So it's 151 West A Street. And you can see our full menu at thebarnandpantry.com.
Great. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thanks to Wyatt, Lindsey, Lorraine, Mandy. You guys are awesome. So don't miss all of that at the Barn and Pantry. And also, again, if you're in Davis, Dixon, Sacramento, or I think it was Vacaville. Yep, Vacaville. Check out Eatwell Farm's CSA box. And I hope you guys can all join us next week for our final Bounty of the County presentation, which will be featuring Virtue Juice in Vacaville. So bring some kids. They're going to demo this crazy juicing machinery over there. And they're going to be using produce from Lockwood Acres. And we have Mangles Vineyards joining us, featuring Gina Richmond, another woman winemaker, which is super exciting. So all of that can be found at sustainablesolano.org. And again, thanks to our guests, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.